could have been better.
And welcome to the Movie Night Podcast, Episode 6. I'm Alex Law.
And I'm your new host, Jake.
Yeah, well, sadly Connor couldn't be with us again because he's tied up with his work, so it's Jake again.
Your new host.
Oh, okay, calm down. But this week, we're going to have a discussion on Oscar bait, which ties into the movie you saw, which is Lion.
Which I actually liked.
Yeah, I just want to say that because I know already I can see a lot of people out there saying, like, what are you, Oscar bait, what are you talking about? Well, just calm down and we'll get to it. But for now, let's run news.
You stay classy, San Diego. I'm Ron. Fuck yourself.
Well, once again, we have another death to report, which a lot of people have already been talking about, and that would be the death of Michael Parks.
Who I'm sad to say I'm not really that familiar with. I've heard he's in a few Tarantino movies, and I know who he is in those Tarantino movies, but I don't really know a whole lot about the guy himself.
He is a beloved character actor in Tarantino, yes, but he's also appeared in a couple of Kevin Smith movies, and in...
He was in Tusk, right?
He was in Tusk, and despite how shitty that movie may be, he was actually pretty good in it. And he was also in Twin Peaks, which
I need to check out, but,
yeah. You're not as well known.
Yeah, definitely. That's too bad.
He always played the same character in From Dusk Till Dawn, The Kill Bills, and in Grindhouse, Sheriff McGaw, I think his name is.
Well, there was that confirmation that all the Tarantino movies are in the same universe.
Although people always leave out From Dusk Till Dawn. They always try to connect it within, like, Reservoir Dogs, but they don't even realize that Tarantino already kind of created a universe, but...
Yeah. But, yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah,
honestly.
Michael Parks, rest in peace. He was a horror movie favorite. Well, we have... Paramount, I believe, has confirmed, or at least thought plans of a third SpongeBob movie.
Which I don't understand one bit. I mean, I've been praying for SpongeBob forever to just die, because I hate new SpongeBob. I think it's awful.
We grew up with... When SpongeBob first hit the scene and became a sensation, we were right there as kids watching it, and we still quote a lot of the old episodes still
absolutely.
today.
I love old SpongeBob to death.
And we even went to see the first movie when it came out, and I remember liking it.
I still really like it, honestly.
And that second movie that came out a couple years ago...
It looks horrible. I never saw it, but it looks horrible.
I heard it wasn't that bad, but it did... The trailers look terrible because they go to Earth, and it becomes like CGI. But I hear that's only like 10 minutes of the movie.
Really?
So I don't know, this third movie, maybe this will be the final nail in the coffin for
I hope so, because I am so ready to have a SpongeBob finale. I mean, it's just they've been dragging that dead corpse for so long.
That's one of those shows like Family Guy and for a lot of people, Simpsons.
Just doesn't know how to die. Yeah.
But as for the movie itself, I probably won't go see it if they make it.
It depends on... I mean, I don't want to be that, like, sheepy guy, but if it gets good buzz, I might check it out.
Yeah.
I
don't care.
Just out of curiosity, mostly.
Because the second one got quote-unquote good buzz. Not great, but it was okay. But I still was like, I just don't care.
Well, but the first SpongeBob movie got okay buzz.
Yeah.
I'm saying if this gets legitimately good, I think just out of curiosity, I feel like I'd want to check it out.
Well, next we have Alien Covenant, which is just coming out. It's not out yet, but it's just... about to come out, is about to get 2 sequels already in the works, and the only reason I want to talk about this is that, because I knew that this was going to happen, because,
I mean, it's just it's just another Alien sequel, there's a billion of them, I mean, why does it matter that much?
Well, the reason I wanted to talk about this is that, because even before Alien Covenant was announced, Neil Blomkamp was going to do Alien 5 with Sigourney Weaver.
Man, I would have loved that.
I would have... Whether you like Neil Blomkamp or not, I think it's more interesting than what Alien Covenant looks like, but... And I thought that they were just going to wait and see how Alien Covenant, if that does well, they were going to let Neil Blomkamp do it. But no, Ridley Scott confirmed that the project just wasn't a go.
That's interesting, but I don't really know how like much of a big deal announcing sequels is, because Avatar that has 3 sequels right.
Nobody gives a shit.
Well, not only that, but there's like no sign of them being in development, and they've been announced for like
Since the first one.
exactly. So I mean, we could be talking about two sequels within a 15-year period. It's like just whatever, you know, whoop-de-doo. If we like the first one, we'll see him, and if we didn't like the first one, then we won't see it.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we have a reboot of Hellboy being announced, and I have not seen the Hellboy movies, but
I saw the first one and I really liked it. Ron Perlman is perfectly casted.
yeah, that's what it looks like. And plus, you had Guillermo del Toro's cool style to it.
Mm-hmm.
And Ron Perlman was, from what I hear, a perfect. So I don't know how they're gonna. They're probably helps that. I actually don't know if those movies were R or not. The two.
No, they were PG-13.
Because a lot of people are clamoring it for it to be R, which that's a cool thing with Deadpool and Logan, R-rated superhero movies.
I think a Hellboy reboot could work. I think it's a little early because the first one's barely 10 years old.
I feel like after the Amazing Spider-Man failure, they have no shame, honestly.
I think you're right. It is being done by Sony then?
But Hellboy?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so either. They don't seem
Whoever
smart
owns
enough to tackle that.
whoever owns the rights to Hellboy.
Okay, but you know, I'm interested. I mean, it's probably just gonna be another dark, gritty remake like they all are. But you know, I'm not uninterested. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Ron Perlman, he's a ticket seller.
Yeah, but it's not going to be him though. Not from what I know.
Who the hell are they gonna recast? That's stupid.
Exactly. So we'll wait and see who they wait to recast.
Ron Perlman.
All right. Well, I'm happy to say that Martin Scorsese's new film, The Irishman, began filming.
You know, it's funny about Martin Scorsese. He's such an acclaimed director who makes all these great movies, but he's really consistent.
Yep.
He not only does he rarely ever makes bad movies.
I would argue he's never made a bad movie, or at least not one that's like a true dud.
I haven't seen one that I dislike from him, but he's consistent in when he releases them. Like, he just released Silence, and now he's already on board with his other one. Like, this is a guy who truly loves making films.
Yep.
To the point where he will be doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it until he dies.
Somebody who never lost his touch. With this movie, I'm very excited for this because I love. Do you know about the cast?
Do not.
This has De Niro, Joe Pesci, Al Pacino, and Harvey Keitel.
Oh, I thought Joe Pesci, they couldn't get him again.
There were stories that Joe Pesci they sent him a script and then he sent it back shredded.
Oh no.
But it's been confirmed he's on board now.
All right, good.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, damn right it's good because where the hell's he been?
No idea. He's looking rough these days, though. Honestly.
Well, you know, that's
typical. But
it's typical.
What I love about Martin Scorsese is not only does he make films often, but like with some people, like Tarantino, when he directs a film, it's like a special occasion because he doesn't release them like that terribly often.
Yeah.
But Martin Scorsese directs them a heck of a lot. It's still a special occasion regardless because it's Martin Scorsese. I mean, you know you're pretty much in for it.
So yeah, Irishman. I'll see that whenever it comes out.
Sounds interesting. I just hope. My only issue is I hope it's not like a. You say it has Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci and all them, and I hope he doesn't just make it like a Goodfellas remake or something like that.
Even so, it's still better him do that than someone try to recreate Goodfellas. David O. Russell.
I mean no.
Well, okay. Well,
if you're talking about American Hustle, you're right.
Yeah. Oh God, I am.
Okay.
But now, speaking of other directors, Steve McQueen, the director of 12 Years a Slave, Hunger, and Shame.
Steve McQueen is dead, man.
Not that Steve McQueen.
I know. I always gotta talk about
I know you're joking, but some guy out there is like, man, what an idiot, and feels better about himself because of that. But anyway, the director, Steve McQueen, is doing a documentary about Tupac.
That is very fascinating.
It's very fitting.
Not only is that a very, very needed documentary, it's very appropriate.
Steve McQueen is also 3 for 3.
Yeah, I've only seen one of his movies. I've only seen 12 Years a Slave, which Hardy Hard, the one that won Best Picture, and I was blown away by it.
Yes, 12 Years a Slave is great. I've seen all 3 of them. I think Hunger's the best.
What was that other one?
Shame with they all have Fassbender.
I need to check those out. I'm very excited to see those. But I think it's very fitting to have a Tupac documentary in general because there is a lot of unexplained stuff that we need to know about the Tupac issue.
Yeah, there you go.
And I just think...
And I think he's the right person to do it.
I don't know why it's just now being addressed, but I don't care. I think it's... I'm glad it's finally getting some attention.
Yeah, there you go.
So, I'm excited.
And we're going down the director's train because Guy Ritchie has just said that Aladdin, his remake of Aladdin, live-action remake, will be a musical.
Well,
and he's talking about directing Suicide Squad 2.
Okay, first of all, wasn't Aladdin already kind of a musical? Like, it was a story, too.
No, it completely was.
So, it's gonna be like a full-blown dance choreographed singing in the rain kind of musical, or?
Probably.
Oh, I mean...
Because it's live action, maybe they'll just... they're gonna God, this is not... I'm one of those anti-live action Disney remake people, even though I thought a couple of them were okay. Like, so far, I'm not cool with this idea that they're gonna do, like, reportedly 19 remakes or reboots or something. And
that's too much.
Especially since Guy Ritchie has made some really, really good movies. I acknowledge that. He's not really right for doing special effect, big budget special effect movies, because his King Arthur movie just came out, and early word is that it's horrible.
I mean, I don't think it looks that good. I think Charlie whatever his name is.
Oh yeah.
I don't think he's a terribly great actor. He was okay in Sons of Anarchy, but I don't think he fit the role. But I honestly, I still kind of have hope for Aladdin, and that hope is really just hanging on by a thread in the sense that Aladdin's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite Disney movies.
So the idea of someone recreating it perfectly just sounds really good to me, because Beauty and the Beast, I haven't seen it yet, but
that's not sounding too good either.
It doesn't. I don't like.
And that just became the highest grossing PG movie.
Well, there's a lot of people out there who love the first one. Sheep people, I might add. I'm just kidding. Not really. But it people who are like, oh, I love this movie as a kid, and I want to see a live action version of it, and fine, whatever. But I gotta say, why does live action have to be, is that much more significant? How does live action matter that much? The story is what matters to me. So seeing, it's Emma Watson and it's not an animated person, I'm like, okay.
It's that's like saying the Psycho remake is good because it was in color.
Yeah, exactly. It's irrelevant. All of these points you make are irrelevant. But hey, if you like it, whatever. I mean, I haven't seen it. So.
I mean, I might like Beauty and the Beast. I'm just saying, even if I did, I'd still say it was unnecessary. Just like how I'm saying Aladdin is unnecessary, and I don't think Guy Ritchie's the right choice.
I just don't think Aladdin.
Now, as far as Suicide Squad 2 goes, I hated the first Suicide Squad so much, I don't even want to think of such a thing.
Unless Mel Gibson was directing it.
Yeah, Mel Gibson also talked about directing it. It would have been R, but then again, maybe not, because David Ayer makes bloody action too, and they butchered his movie.
There is no way. If Mel Gibson directed that, they would not give him any freedom, any artistic freedom. They would have butchered that movie just like they butchered all their movies.
Yeah.
The director at this point, when it comes to DC, is irrelevant. He's just a standing man to take the fall for people who hate it.
And some people have said that about the Marvel movies too. I have to kind of disagree, because not to a whole extent, because there is that Marvel stamp on it, but when Joss Whedon did the Avengers movies, they sure felt like Joss Whedon's writing.
Yeah.
And even in Ant-Man, even though Edgar Wright sadly did not get to direct that one, there were still bits of Edgar Wright inspired moments that I noticed in that movie. We're going to move on from that, because speaking of Edgar Wright, let's talk about his new upcoming movie, Baby Driver.
I have not heard of that.
Well, all you have to know is it's Edgar Wright.
Right.
He has not made anything other than an A movie yet. And I hope this isn't the one that breaks it, but...
He attracts audiences for a very right reason.
He's one of the most gifted writers working today.
He really is. His movies have such an aspiring tone.
Yep.
and they have like the driest but the most perfect comedic moods for each of his scenes. Like, all of his scenes have the most perfect timing.
Yep. Oh God, and they're just brilliantly made movies.
When does it come out? June?
It comes out in June, I believe, and I noticed that this is probably going to be a little more like Scott Pilgrim, maybe Scott Pilgrim, Edgar Wright, because it's got more American stars in it, like Jamie Foxx, Kevin Spacey, John Hamm, John Bernthal. Like I said, I actually don't know much about the plot. Actually, I watched a trailer. It's like a heist thing, and I'm just saying, Edgar Wright, he's yet to disappoint, and I hope this isn't the one to do it, like I said, but yeah, I'll go see it.
Yeah, no, I'm interested. Edgar Wright, sign me up. The only Edgar Wright movie I was iffy about was he didn't direct it, but he wrote it. It was Ant-Man.
Excuse me, he co-wrote it.
Oh, okay. Well,
and even then, I thought, like I said, there were definitely moments in Ant-Man that I noticed. I'm like, okay, that was, if not Edgar Wright actually directed that part, it was definitely they took inspiration from him.
Yeah, no, I mean it's yeah, no, I agree. I didn't dislike it. I thought it was fine. It's just, as far as Marvel goes, it was one of the more underwhelming Marvel movies I've seen, honestly. It would probably be around tier 3 Marvel, I would say.
I thought it was enjoyable, but
I did too. I mean, Paul Rudd, he's just,
yeah, Paul Rudd was a good choice.
he's a hoot. I freaking
I love Paul Rudd.
Definitely.
Well, now we have, speaking of comedians, we've got a upcoming Will Ferrell comedy that's been announced with Jason Momoa. That would be Drago from Game of Thrones.
That sounds really, really interesting.
The only reason we're talking about this, because otherwise I wouldn't care, is that I just find it weird. I can't help but feel, some people might disagree with me, but that's just me. I feel Will Ferrell should be past the point of these vehicles. Because, you know, Anchorman, Talladega Nights, those came out 10 years ago. I feel like, because a lot of these ones he's been doing recently have been not good, like Daddy's Home and Get Hard, where there's no real plot. They're just made for Will Ferrell to do his thing. And I hate comedies like that because they're usually just so lazy.
Honestly, that's every movie I've seen of Will Ferrell's, honestly.
Well, Anchorman, I would argue.
Yeah, that's true.
And honestly, a lot of people love Elf. It didn't.
I don't.
It didn't age well for me, but even that at least had like sincerity to it.
A lot of people like to quote Step Brothers and
yeah,
the
I
other
know.
guys.
Step Brothers annoyed the shit out of me.
And the other guys,
Yeah.
which didn't look that good. I haven't seen any of those because I'm personally just not a huge Will Ferrell fan.
Me neither.
My
Maybe
least favorite episodes of The Office are easily the ones where he's in them.
Maybe people who love Will Ferrell will say like, "Well, no, keep doing your thing, Will." But even Jim Carrey, because I love Jim Carrey, but in the '90s, there was a point when Jim Carrey changed it up a bit. He did some dramas with mixed results, yes, but you know,
I mean, yeah.
some of them stand out though, like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Truman Show, and I feel like Will Ferrell should have, some people like Will Ferrell should have had that change, do something different, but they're still giving him these movies like it's still 2006, and I'm sorry, but it's not.
Yeah, no, but Jason Momoa, what a pair, I gotta say.
Is it like, I guess.
I mean, it's a weird, it just feels like a random pair that I feel like Jason Momoa, they're just wanting to put him in anything at this point. Like he's in the Justice League, he's playing Aquaman.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, how do you see that guy and think, Will Ferrell comedy?
Okay, you know what? I'll go see it if it's a movie about Buddy the Elf being transported back in time to Westeros.
Oh my. Well, let's just say that would be a very short movie.
But it would definitely be more interesting.
Sure.
No.
I guess you could say
You
that.
say sure, maybe doubtful. They make that movie, my ticket's already bought.
I mean, I guess you can't argue with that because there's so many Game of Thrones fans out there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that doesn't mean it'd be very smart. I mean, maybe not. Maybe, who knows?
Imagine it. Joffrey's like, bring me his head. He's an angry elf. Hey, and Peter Dinklage.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me?
I'll go see that. Anyway, okay.
They recognize each other.
Yeah, that was funny. Hey, feeling strong, my man. Yeah, the elf has its moments. I didn't mean to bash it.
I don't like it.
I'm not. Yeah. Well, now last one we have is Walton Goggins joining the cast for Maze Runner 3.
Is he gonna be in...
Who cares?
Right?
I feel like, okay, I'm that guy. I am that guy who said the first Maze Runner, because these YA movies, those YA movies, tended to be very, it's this meets this. That's no surprise. Like, Hunger Games was basically like Battle Royale, and, you know, like that. Maze Runner just happened to be taking from stuff I liked, like, it's basically Lord of the Flies meets Cube, and for that, I was like, I enjoyed Maze Runner, the first one.
I think the first one is pretty solid. I
Yeah.
like the cast for the most part.
Yeah,
I think
the kids were good. The kids were good in that.
I kind of thought the reveal at the end
Oh,
was a
God.
little...
Complete cop-out.
I thought it was a cop-out, I really did.
But, and I realized when I watched the second one, because I realized that that premise was the only thing it had thing it had going for it, because the second one was a completely disposable zombie apocalypse movie.
Isn't everything nowadays?
Yep, and now they're making a third one, which I don't even, because I honestly thought the fifth wave would kill this YA trend where it stood, and because fifth wave was god awful, and even the recent Divergent movie got downgraded to a TV movie.
Good, that's where it belongs.
I feel like this tired genre just needs to die. Maze Runner's getting over the finish line just now, while Hunger Games did it like 2 years back. And and from what I hear, it didn't even end that well. So, yeah, YA, it came and went. It was just like the Twilight phase. We're probably going to have more phases, trending phases with movies. So we'll just deal with them as they come. For now, I don't give a shit about Maze Runner 3, even if Walton Goggins is in it, and I do love Walton Goggins.
Yeah, I think it needs to die just as much as the zombie industry needs to die, because I am not a fan of Walking Dead in the slightest, and I'm tired of it getting blown up.
No, I feel like the zombie genre should be dead by now, because a lot of the more, like the only thing that's keeping it in because we've had stuff like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies and World War Z, I feel like the only thing that stood out among that is Walking Dead, and it's not going away with that still around.
And I just don't like Walking Dead.
Nope, not for me.
I just don't think it's
good. I
good.
think it's not very extremely well written. I don't think the characters are that interesting.
Plus, there's nothing we haven't seen there.
Nope.
That you can't get better from any other zombie movie.
Although if George Romero wants to, get another, because I heard a few months back that he tried to get a movie greenlit, but he couldn't get it greenlit, another zombie movie, and it's, if Romero wants to come back and do one, even if like the last couple he did weren't that good, I'd still support him, because
Wait, George Romero tried to get him?
Yeah.
Why would they not let him make a new zombie movie? He created zombies, but...
Well, think about how they did. This is part of the reason I don't want to support Walking Dead, because of what they did to Frank Darabont.
Oh my god, yeah. Well, that's mostly just AMC.
Still.
But they screwed him bad. Yeah, AMC just... Ugh.
Same thing happened to Frank Darabont that I just mentioned with Romero. Walking Dead spit him, or they chewed him up and spit him out. And then he tried to get another show made that got one season, Mob City, and then it got canceled.
We wouldn't have zombies if it weren't for George Romero.
Yep.
Walking Dead took...
It's just the more popular version.
It's pathetic.
It's pathetic, but, that's just us. I'm sure some Walking Dead fans listening to this just shut it off right here.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, well. Well, that wraps up news. Now we're gonna get into our topic, which is, you could argue this is a follow-up to the discussion that Connor and I had a few shows ago about the Oscars in general. This is just talking about Oscar bait, both just what it is and what it represents, which a lot of people already know it does, but it's not automatically a bad thing. That's what I want to say.
See, I think there's good and there's bad Oscar bait. I think the good Oscar bait is where it's like, it's it's gonna win an Oscar, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have something to say.
Moonlight's a perfect example.
Moonlight, Crash.
We'll talk about Crash, but
well, whatever. But Brooklyn.
Yeah, I didn't see Brooklyn.
I really, really liked it, but it's those movies where even though you can tell it's going to win an Oscar, that doesn't mean it's still not a great movie that has something to say.
12 Years a Slave, even though...
12 Years a Slave I love.
Even though I hated that controversy that, like, some members of the Academy didn't even watch it. They just voted for it because it was important.
I still don't think that's a good reason to shun it from that it didn't deserve Best Picture, because that's pathetic. It absolutely deserved to win.
Yeah, I thought 12 Years a Slave was a phenomenal movie.
Definitely. And then there's like bad Oscar bait, and I'm emphasizing bad. I mean movies where you see
Lovely
that movie
Bones.
and you know that it really all it tried to do was win an Oscar, and that's all it's trying to do. King's Speech.
Yeah, anything by Tom Hooper.
Yeah,
really.
King's Speech.
And sometimes
Danish Girl in particular.
And Les Mis for that matter.
Did Tom Hooper do that?
Yep.
Oh, interesting. I didn't see that, but it probably shouldn't have gotten as much buzz as it did. So
it's one of those that hasn't been. That's when you know it's just there to win its Oscar when it comes, wins a few Oscars, and sometimes it even wins Best Picture, like we mentioned King's Speech, and then nobody talks about it again. Not that always determines what's good and what's bad, because there's some movies that nobody talks about that are great.
Yeah.
They're called underrated movies. So, but that's when you know, because 2015, Danish Girl's the one. Danish Girl came out in 2015 and it was nominated for a few Oscars. Nobody has talked about that since then, but everyone still talks and loves Mad Max Fury Road.
See,
that won the most Oscars that night.
But not Best Picture.
Oh, Spotlight, that's another one.
Spotlight is Oscar baity, but I did really like it.
Spotlight is a pretty good movie that shouldn't have won Best Picture. If it were my decision, it would have been Fury Road, but I know that wasn't going to win.
No, that did not stand a chance. I think it's just kind of how the industry works nowadays. You have your dump months.
Yep.
You got your January through March.
That's when you pull them out. It's also late December.
That too. Yeah, that's where no one's really looking to see movies as much, and it's just kind of a slow season. And then you got your summer blockbusters, which you're gonna have your big your superhero movies,
and your sequel reboot. If we're lucky, something original.
It's not going to be a blockbuster, but it's going to be out there probably. And then at the end of all that, I'd say in September, October, is when the Oscar bait starts to be more discovered. How it gets discovered, I don't know. Why it doesn't get discovered earlier, I don't know. But the Oscars discover it, whether or not they actually like it, or because they just need to find some movies to ramble together. Because there have been some years where straight up the nominees look like movies that they are like, oh, we need some Best Picture nominees. Let's round up this, and this.
A perfect example of that, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, where it wasn't even received well. Like King's Speech and Selma were received well. Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, everyone called it like pandery garbage, but it was about...
And the Wachowskis directed it for the... Come on.
No, you're thinking about Cloud Atlas.
Okay.
Actually don't know what that was nominated for. That's a different kind of movie altogether. But in regards to those months you were talking about where it's safe to play things, sometimes it works pretty well. Like a couple years back, The Martian actually played its cards really well because it came out in the fall season. And it was, I remember, it was the #1 movie for a long time. It did very well, even though it was based on a book.
Yeah, but it does deal with space, so it was extremely well made.
I dug The Martian.
I really liked it, but Ridley Scott, he is actually a pretty good crowd
crowd pleaser in his own right. Although,
he is.
although
He doesn't hold a candle to James Cameron, but he is a crowd pleaser in a sense.
yeah, with this, you could consider this like an add-on to that Alien argument we were having earlier because, although the crowd pleasing thing, it's hit or miss because the fans were not pleased with Prometheus, and even I thought it was like watchable at least. A lot of people said it was like called it unwatchable, but I always thought that was a hyperbole.
I haven't seen it yet. Another one that I think was just made to win an Oscar, even though I personally like it, is The Blind Side.
The Blind Side. That's one.
It's just it has I like it, but it has no business being nominated for Best Picture. It is not a Best Picture material.
I debate whether it's good because
I like it. I think it was good.
I thought like Sandra Bullock was really good in it, but I feel like that's the only thing I remember about it.
That is really the only thing to remember about that movie. Everything else, honestly, it's not really that convincing.
No.
It's pretty unconvincing, melodramatic.
Oh, another one that's on similar grounds with Blind Side is was that Cuba Good. It was Cuba Gooding, right? Radio.
Radio, yeah.
Not a fan of that movie either.
I thought it was. I haven't seen it in a long, long time, but I thought it was okay. But what I actually want to see was Still Alice.
Oh, that's when it just felt like that was Julianne Moore's chance to win an Oscar, and it worked.
Yeah.
Because sometimes Oscar bait does. I said sometimes it does work right. Like it worked with Spotlight, it worked with King's Speech, and it even worked with Moonlight. Even though I feel like that'll be more remembered because Moonlight's a lot more unique and well crafted than some of those others, especially bad ones like Lovely Bones, which. You will never find a bigger Peter Jackson fan than myself. I even enjoyed the Hobbit movies for what they were, but Lovely Bones was a pretentious mess.
Well, Peter Jackson directed that.
Poor shame.
Oh man, that's too bad.
That's the one I couldn't defend. It wasn't like the worst thing I've ever seen, but it was definitely. It had the chick from Brooklyn in it.
Yeah, and
Mark Wahlberg.
I want to talk about Brooklyn a little because that is kind of Oscar baity, and I didn't hear about it until it was like the last minute when it was nominated for Best Picture. Other than that, I had no idea it existed, and I thought, man, this movie was made just to win an Oscar or whatever. That being said, I watched it, and it was one of the most unique romantic drama films I have ever seen. It like if you're because I know you aren't a huge romantic movie person.
Nope.
And you hate the cliches
Yep.
and all that. That is a movie that I highly recommend to you.
Okay.
Then it is. I thought it was just very, very good. And actually, the girl, I forget her name.
Oh, it's so hard to pronounce. She was also the chick from Hannah.
Yes, we have the exact same birth date, April 12th, 1994.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But I think Brooklyn, even though not many people talk about it anymore, I think it's along the lines, as far as the Oscars go, extremely, extremely solid, and I highly recommend it. But
yeah, okay. There's some that some would say are debatable Oscar bait, like Room, which I wouldn't call that Oscar bait.
I don't know. That had something to say, and it was based on a novel.
It was based on a novel, and it was also just a really fucking good movie.
Yeah, I know. Like some movies are, like I said, there's good Oscar bait where you see it and you're like, yep, that's gonna win an Oscar, but it still has something to say. But the shitty Oscar bait I'm talking about is the Oscar bait where you see the pretentious directing and you're just like, oh, it's trying to literally bait you in. But I wouldn't put Room in that category personally.
Nuh-uh, not even of Inarritu stuff personally, because a lot of people have accused Birdman and The Revenant of that. But I feel like they're way too well made to just dump them with The Blind Side and Crash and so forth.
See, Oscar bait movies have a craft to them, a specific craft to appeal.
Not always, but
okay, not always, but like when you think of movies like even though I love this movie, Dances with Wolves, English Patient, King's Speech, what do they
Shakespeare in Love?
What do they all have in common? They're classy period pieces that are about being different from other people.
Upper class.
Yeah, exactly. And they're all... Because English Patient does not get talked about much at all. Dances with Wolves has a bit of a following. Mostly because Kevin Costner directed it.
Dude, one that by all intents and purposes, I thought it was going to be like this, but it was much better than that. It was Amadeus, because that's one where you're like, a period drama about the life of Mozart, but then you realize it's actually like a fable in a lot of ways, and it's very, very well handled.
I actually have yet to finish watching that. I have seen half of it.
Avoid the director's cut.
Okay.
It has a lot of unnecessary bloat.
All right, I'll go ahead. But I will check that out because that is definitely
it's that Amadeus still holds up.
I want to talk about one of the Oscar baitiest actors in the industry, who personally is on my shit list right now. I'm not trying to talk shit. I'm just saying.
I know exactly who you're gonna say.
Will Smith.
Yep.
Will Smith, I have appreciated.
Will Smith, I think is a really, really charming guy. Anyone will agree with that, and he's proven to be a pretty damn good actor. Not recently, but in time he has.
Yes, and I really liked him in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Everyone loves Fresh Prince of Bel-Air,
yes.
And even in movies like iRobot, which isn't a great movie, but he's really good. He's really likable in it.
Right. So for the longest time, I've really admired Will Smith, but these past few years, he has just been in constant shit. He has been. I mean, I liked Pursuit of Happiness.
I thought that was okay.
I haven't seen Ali, but critics didn't seem to appreciate.
Yeah. Ali got mixed at best.
7 Pounds, which
was he in that?
Yes.
Huh.
He is. Yes.
Oh wait, was that with Margot Robbie, or am I thinking of something completely different?
You thinking of Suicide Squad?
No. They did another movie together. I think it was 7 Pounds, but I could be wrong.
I'll look it up later, but
Suicide Squad. There's one.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I've heard what happens in that movie. I haven't seen the actual movie, and I hear it's just really melodramatic.
Yep.
Crap. But
I haven't seen Concussion.
No, but that doesn't look as Oscar baity, I guess. But
he. Since Leo won his Oscar, now it seems like it's Will Smith's turn. And if you ask me, because a lot of people made fun of Leo, became like a meme for how much he wanted his Oscar. But if you ask me, Will Smith's attempts at Oscars are much more come off as way more desperate to me.
Way more ham-fisted. Don't get me wrong. I've seen Leo.
Yeah,
be pretty desperate.
Leo always seems like he's definitely bringing it to the thing. Like Wolf of Wall Street was definitely that, but I thought he was excellent in Wolf of Wall Street,
I second that.
And I can't say exactly that Will Smith was excellent in Collateral Beauty, which can I say right now? If we're talking about bad Oscar bait, I feel like that's the new golden child for it. That is one of the most ill-conceived, horribly made, badly written attempts or badly attempted Oscar bait movies I have ever seen in my life.
And I need to see it. I'm very excited to see it because I want to know how bad
it is. It is a perfect, I would call it a perfect train wreck, because if that was made to get Will Smith an Oscar, I don't know for sure if it was. That's just how it came off to me. And if it was, then mission failed, because not only was the movie garbage, pandery garbage, but he wasn't even good in it. He looked like he was bored, and he phoned it in.
You know what he said after the movie failed and the critics hated it? He says he's pretty much done with the Oscars.
I bet he'd feel differently if he was actually nominated for something else.
That's what I'm saying. Every time he doesn't get nominated, he just whines. I'm sorry, but
yeah.
Come on, man. That's not what it's about. It's not about winning an award. It's about giving it your all and seeing what happens.
Some people have never won Oscars, and they've been working in the business for years, and yet they're perfectly happy with it. Roger Deakins is one. He doesn't care that he doesn't have an Oscar.
I know, he's been nominated 13 times. So I don't hate Will Smith. I just think he's got a bit of an ego.
No. Oh, he definitely has an ego, especially when trying to shove his kids into the spotlight when they're clearly not wanted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just not a. Yeah, I'm not
Jaden Smith and his daughter, who he tried to make a pop star. And
I'm just not a huge fan. But I think in general, movies that are considered Oscar buzz or Oscar bait, I think they become discovered. I think they purposely release them during Oscar season, so the Academy will say, okay, it's time to rack up these movies and discover what's our cup of tea around this time. I could be wrong because I think Birdman got a fall release.
Yeah, it was one of those like art theaters. That's where I mostly saw it. And I know people who hate Inarritu with a fiery passion will like say like, "Oh, of course it was."
Yeah, I know, but I feel like overall, most people decide to release them around there, so the Academy will discover them, and it'll be potential bait.
Because there's still I've at the time, like, that was like, this was 7 years ago, so I'm still not as, I'm obviously not as upset as I was. Plus I cared about the Oscars more back then.
Oh, I definitely don't.
Or at least I cared more about what their opinion was. Now I don't give a shit. But at the time I was mad that King's Speech beat out Social Network.
Yeah, I was very upset about that too.
Because how did Tom Hooper beat out like a guy who's made almost nothing but great movies, David Fincher?
Yeah,
although if you ask me, you're probably gonna disagree with this, but David Fincher's attempt at Oscar bait came with a movie right before that, Benjamin Button.
Yeah, I love Benjamin Button, honestly. It's not one of my favorites of his, but I definitely think it's unique. It's a unique story, and it's very well told, and it's just so epic. It's got a Forrest Gump feel to it.
A forced one. And it had the same writer as Forrest Gump, that's why it feels so similar. But Curious Case, like I talked about, that's an example of well-made Oscar bait, because I think Benjamin Button is a greatly crafted film. It is a wonderful achievement surrounded by a not so interesting story.
Well,
in my opinion,
I just see it as Forrest Gump. He's just going through the motion. He's got
some people hate Forrest Gump. I'm not one of them, but
it's just about a guy going through the trials of life, and he learns a lot of new things and discovers a lot of new things.
Well, you can have that. There's some Oscar bait that I really like. Like, I actually really like the Butler with Forrest Whitaker.
I haven't seen that.
That's also, I bring that up because that's also similar to Forrest Gump, where it's almost like but it's mostly with Black history. And I thought it was actually pretty engaging. It didn't force anything it wasn't overly cloying either. Yeah. To me, some people might say otherwise, but I thought the Butler was perfectly fine.
I heard good things. I'll check it out. And real quick, would you call Forrest Gump Oscar bait?
Some would, but I really wouldn't, because I feel like Zemeckis is too a different league of filmmaker than like a Tom Hooper or someone like that, where he makes movies because he really wants to tell a story.
I know you don't look at movies like Back to the Future or Who Framed Roger Rabbit and think, oh, he's just trying to win an Oscar.
Or I would even argue The Walk, which I thought was only okay, but it had its moments, but that felt more genuine than, say, like a period drama would sometimes, because Spielberg been making period dramas too, but Spielberg
he's good as hell at them.
Spielberg as a director is leagues above everybody else.
He is the top league.
Pretty much.
His own league.
Like, you could argue Lincoln was, but damn it, if everything him and Daniel Day-Lewis, they just didn't put everything into it.
Everything in that movie just fell into place. End of story. I mean, it's Oscar bait, but it's so good at it. It's like you're in a different world, basically. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, pretty much. And now we're gonna get to one that we have had several disagreements on.
Very many.
That would be Crash. We already talked about this in the first show about what me and Connor think of that. Jake is the one who has a different perspective than Connor and I do.
Well, I have a different perspective than a lot of people.
Because it's appeared on most...
Because you pretty much say what everyone says about the movie.
Yep.
It's pandery.
It's
bad.
preachy.
Yeah.
It's got bad parts. It definitely does.
It does. It's not a perfect movie, I admit, and I kind of see
or a good one.
I kind of see what you mean by preachy, but the thing is, I don't think it's Oscar bait because the scenes that I see, they're way too well directed and way too well crafted and way too well acted to just be there for the sake of winning an Oscar. It's not a half-assed message. It's an important message. And it's never been expressed in this type of light before.
And it didn't need to.
I claim to disagree. I think this is just an era. I don't want to go too deep into racism because it's a hot topic right now.
And honestly, I'm not smart enough to like have an authority on that.
Yeah, we've been trying to avoid it this whole episode, honestly. But I just want to say it is an important thing to talk about, and there's never been a movie talking about this. You could say American History X tackled it, but
it did, and I think it did it way better.
It tackled all forms of hate, not just racism, all forms of hate. And that's fine, but I just think having it out there more blatantly isn't important.
But I also think this goes, if we're talking about the message itself, good and fine, whatever. I've always said, because I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this before, that I think a movie has it better when it drops you into the story and gets you acquainted with it before dropping its like symbolism on you, and that's what Crash and to be fair, a lot of movies fail to do this, where immediately the movie starts and it's like we're gonna have pushed this message right off the bat.
Well, I think Crash actually managed to pull off establishing characters and story as well as putting you right in the message. I think it actually managed to pull off both because right away, I mean, yeah, sure, you don't love these characters. I mean, it's an ensemble movie, so you're not going to get as much screen time with each actor as you would prefer, but I think you get enough from everyone to know what they're going through and to see the racial trials that they have to deal with, and just seeing how greatly acted, because that movie is just
I will give it. That is
acted.
something I will never take away from it. The cast was very well utilized.
So even if you don't know these people that well and you know how syrupy the writing is or whatever, just seeing their reactions to having to deal with this discrimination or this behavior is just so riveting and down to earth and convincing that I'm just in love with it every time I see it, and I stand by it. I think it is a well-written movie.
Oh gosh. Well, I can't say that I do because like I said, I feel like a movie should drop you. Like a good example honestly would be Zootopia recently, where
yeah, because everybody who's racist, they're just like, what do you want, Fox?
Well, here's the difference though.
Yeah, everyone talks like that.
No, Jake,
right?
Jake, come on now. Here's the difference though. Zootopia, like, yeah, you get that it's racial satire. At the same time, it's also an engaging movie. You wouldn't have to know the political side of it to enjoy it. But Crash, from the minute it starts, it just shoves it down your throat.
I mean, maybe that opening scene with the gun shop owner.
Oh, God.
That's probably pushed it a little bit. But there are some bigots out there who are like that. They really are that. Not only are they that exaggerated about the racism, but they're that open about it. It does happen.
I'm sorry, I don't buy it.
You really don't think it doesn't happen in the real world?
Not as often as that movie makes it seem.
You're right, it was just that one scene, but these are...
No, it's the whole movie.
Yeah, but these are several instances happening in L.A. Paul Haggis, he lives in L.A.
That was really not well done.
Yeah, the movie was inspired when he was in a store and he walked out and his car was hijacked, and right away he assumed it was, a black guy or a Mexican guy. And this movie and that's what I love about this movie, is that for once you're not seeing, I mean, you're seeing how racism affects the lives of people, but you're also going in depth on the racists themselves. Like, no movie has ever done that before. You're actually going deep into to what they're dealing with, and you get an idea of why they are the way they are. Okay. And I think that is a very important move to make.
I don't think it was...
Call it politically correct if you want, but...
I'm going to call it pandery.
I just think everything about it works.
I don't think it worked hardly at all, but... you know what? I'm gonna cut you some slack here, Jay, because we're talking about an Oscar winner that I hate, you love. Let's change it up a bit. Let's talk Hurt Locker.
Yeah, no, Hurt Locker sucks. I don't like it. I don't like it.
I think Hurt Locker is a very, very good movie.
Okay, it doesn't suck. It's obviously well made. I'm not an idiot who can't tell when a movie isn't well made.
No, that's not why you're an idiot.
Shut up. But no, it is so just such a fake movie.
All right.
It is.
You're not the only one who's accused it of that, because
so pretentiously directed.
And Crash isn't.
No.
Oh my God! You give me a break. Because
Avatar should have won.
You think Avatar should have won?
I like it more than Hurt Locker.
I don't. But I think Hurt Locker was just it didn't shove any of the preachiness down your throat, because what I like about it is that it's a little debatable what it's even trying to say. More or less, it's more like...
And that makes it more sloppily written.
I disagree, because every step it took, you know, you can't say you saw it coming, and it had a very interesting lead character.
I will admit, Jeremy Renner was very well acted in that.
Because if you're gonna play that card about it didn't utilize the war right, why don't we talk another movie like American Sniper, which I'm not a fan of.
Even though that's Oscar bait, I really got into that movie for some reason, and that is a special occasion where I know it's very pandery Oscar bait. I don't care. I really liked it.
I was very disappointed by American Sniper.
I mean, Bradley Cooper is God to me, so there's that. But besides that reason,
Bradley Cooper is fine. Speaking of Bradley Cooper, can I
in that movie he's excellent.
He was fine. Can I say real quick that this will be the last thing we say before we get into the movie of the week, because we've been going on for a bit. Mm-hmm. But can I say that I'm not a fan of this Oscar bait kick that David O. Russell's been on?
I kind of see where you're coming from, but I think it affects you a lot more than it affects me.
Because I feel like when you watch some of his older stuff, like Three Kings and I Heart Huckabees, where you're like, those actually movies have something to say, where I thought, this is my problem, because American Hustle is a movie that everyone in the world loves but me, apparently,
I really
seemingly.
liked it. I liked it.
That's a movie where everyone talked about how great everything was into it. I got nothing out of that movie, nothing. I thought it was empty, and I thought it kind of wasted my time, honestly.
Well, one thing in your defense, I will say that David O. Russell is a complicated director to get into as far as his movies go. He's got a very tricky style of writing and a very tricky style of presentation. I knew exactly what he was going for American Hustle personally, but not everyone sees it like that. He is pretty much a quirk fest man.
Okay,
he writes his characters to be as quirky as possible,
yep.
And man, does he nail it. That hits. That's a swing and a miss for some people. And
yes, if you like that, maybe you'll get into that. Because honestly, I'm kind of glad to say that Joy, because Joy's another one I didn't like, but that was the one where the critics and everyone else seemed to agree with me.
I wasn't as big on Joy as his other movies, but I found some nice qualities about it. I
felt like when he made The Fighter, he said like, hey, I should start doing this now, because they're finally getting like Oscar praise, and I'm like, yay, but you're kind of losing what made you interesting in the first place.
But that did pay off with my favorite David O. Russell movie, which is Silver Linings Playbook.
It's okay.
No, that is an Oscar bait movie that I think works to the nth degree. I love that movie. It's one of my favorite romantic comedies of all time. Jennifer Lawrence
she won for that.
She did. And I thought she was amazing in that, just like she's amazing in everything.
She was good in it. Not amazing in everything. Did you see the last X-Men movie?
Yes.
It was.
I didn't think she was that bad in it.
She was definitely not wanting to be there.
Well, she's mostly great in everything.
Okay. As for me, I've said about David O. Russell, I feel like he's losing because Quentin Tarantino movies win Oscars sometimes, but he's never lost what he originally had, and some people even get frustrated with that. But I felt like David O. Russell kind of lost what made him interesting.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, his movies back then were a lot more offbeat because he didn't really have much of a budget. And now that he's, a little bit bigger, and he's got alumni to work with, he's now got like enough of a budget to make an efficient piece. And I think it's paying off. I really do. Because I still think his writing style is still, it's not as weird as it was, but I still think it's got that David O. Russell kick to it.
All right.
Like anytime I see a movie or a tone or characters being written, I think I can always go back and say, yeah, those are David O. Russell characters for sure.
All right.
So.
Well, that's not me, but well, that's the end of that discussion. Now let's move on to the movie of the week. So, this week we watched Lion, which the reason we talk about that is that's an Oscar movie that no one really talked about.
No, I didn't hear anybody discuss it. I saw it in the polls for the Golden Globe and for the Academy Awards.
Yep.
And I hear that Dave Patel was nominated for it, and I really like Dave Patel.
Yes, I'm big Dave Patel fan.
Absolutely. So I heard it on those two forums, and I heard Dave Patel was nominated for it. Some people were saying, "Oh, will he get his Oscar or what?" But other than that, people didn't really have much to say about it.
And you know what? That's a bit of a shame because it's actually a pretty good movie.
I really liked it. Yes, I mean it's a little Oscar. It is Oscar bait, I'll admit, but it does have something to tell. It's actually a very interestingly true story. I'm not one of those guys where if it's a true story, I'm automatically in love with it.
No.
But just some of the facts thrown into this story being told was just so riveting, and I found it to be a very compelling piece, and
very well made. I misplaced the director's name, but it was very the cinematography was good, and everything that went into it. What were we gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say if I had one issue with it, it dragged a little in the second half.
I was about to say that exact same thing. If there's something that keeps me from loving it, and that would be that the second half is not as riveting as the first half, and that's actually ironically the half where Dev Patel comes in, because I gotta say that kid is going places.
He is. He's getting a lot. Like the movie isn't getting as much buzz as he is. Like he himself is.
Yeah, he was the perfect choice, honestly, and he sold it, because some kid actors you put them in as to star in your movie and you're asking for trouble, but
I mean he's no Jacob Tremblay in Room for me personally.
No.
But no, he's a definite he's definitely going places. I'm excited to see that. But no, Lion it's just it doesn't really bother me how baity it can be at times, because it told the story really well and with almost no dialogue in particular scenes. And I think the cast, some cast I thought was like Rooney Mara.
Yeah, she was fine.
She was fine in it.
She didn't stand out, but she was fine.
Nicole Kidman, I wasn't expecting. I didn't think this was her kind of movie, but she was really good in it. I was surprised by that.
Yeah. I'll say this, if I have another detriment to the movie, it'd probably be that I felt there could have been more relationship between him and Dev Patel and Nicole Kidman, because as soon as they adopt the kid, it jumps 20 years later and they already have a grounded relationship. And Nicole Kidman has a few moments to shine, especially when that one scene when they're when she's talking to him in the living room. But she was nominated, right?
She was, yeah. I think one thing you have to understand about the second half is a lot of it is just it focuses a lot on him after all these years finally trying to find his family. So it focuses less on his current family. That being said, that scene that he talks with, Nicole Kidman, that scene
that was really well done.
Powerful.
It was very well done.
That was, you could call that Nicole Kidman's Oscar moment all day long. I don't care. It was extremely well done.
Shows that Nicole Kidman still has it, honestly.
Definitely, yeah, I agree. Who won for Best Supporting Actress that year? Because it wasn't her.
Viola Davis for Fences. Okay, no, that was pretty well earned.
Yeah, no, definitely. Viola Davis was, I love Fences, honestly.
Yeah, but as far as Lion goes, I don't think it's, I can name, it's another one of those I can name like a handful of movies from 2016 that I liked more, but...
it's Beatty, but it's not one of the Beatty.
I can even name another similar type movie with Dev Patel. Slumdog Millionaire, I think, walks all over this, honestly.
Yeah, I kind of liked him more in Slumdog Millionaire myself, but if I had to say what he might be better in, it might be this.
He was pretty good in this. It's a very emotionally driven movie. Some people said it was emotional and tear-jerking, which we talked about this last time about sad movies that make you cry. This one, I felt the emotions were there, even though I was more looking at it from a critical standpoint.
Yeah, but I just love Dave Patel's on-screen charisma.
I love his on-screen charisma, and I also love going back to the scenes with the kid. I love how they took the time to establish the relationship with the brother before he goes missing. And
yeah, that was a good move.
That first half, not that the second half loses any momentum, even though we mentioned it, Dragon. I don't mean it loses anything in quality, but that first half, that would have been I feel like that would have been, if that was like a short film, that'd be like one of the greatest short films out there.
Probably, I would think so. The only thing with that is the whole boy growing up into male thing. Maybe the main reason it didn't get as much as attention is maybe because it was done better in Moonlight.
Yeah, it was kind of similar to Moonlight.
It was, but
not that the story's similar, but the showing the kid through different time periods, done much better in Moonlight.
Yeah, I definitely prefer Moonlight, but I would say overall, even though it's Beatty, Lion is definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
It's a solid. And there's some Oscar bait that's some of my favorite movies of all time. So don't treat Oscar bait like it's a negative. Sometimes it can be, but some of the greatest movies of all time are Oscar bait. So I definitely recommend Lion. I think it's really solid. I'm gonna go 7 out of 10.
I'm right there with you, 7 out of 10. And I do think, I don't know if I'm ever going to be compelled to go back and ever watch it again, but sitting through it once is worth your time, and it was worth my time, and I'm glad I saw it, and it had really good elements.
Yep, I agree, definitely.
So that wraps up this show. Hopefully we'll get this one out quicker than the last few, so bye.
Yep.